Thank you. Thanks for the introduction and thank you for having me. Actually, my talk could be seen as a summary of what has already been discussed today. So you will probably recognize some of the elements that have been discussed in previous talks. So here you can see a butterfly. I chose this image because it is, of course, a symbol for transformation. Last summer, I was visiting Utrecht University in the Netherlands, and I was visiting a computer sciences professor to discuss our community offerings around AI and computer sciences. And then it turns out they also have botanical gardens at their campus grounds. So since I always like to combine business with pleasure, I went to the botanical gardens, and that is where I met this beautiful butterfly. So hope you enjoy. The setup is fantastic. The screen is so huge, so hope you like it. So in this presentation, I will go through who we are, some of our pitfalls we have encountered over the last few years, and accomplishments. First, about iOS Press. Maybe some of you are already familiar with who we are. We are an Amsterdam-based publishing company, publishing in scientific, technical, and medical subject disciplines. And we publish around 75 journals and around 70 books annually. Our company was founded in 1987 by Dr. Einar Fredriksson, who is still in charge of the company today, and will actually soon celebrate 50 years in the publishing industry. And of course, we celebrate with some drinks. Some of our titles include, for instance, one of our prominent titles on Journal of Alzheimer's Disease. And then we have some other titles on neurodegenerative diseases, including Parkinson's disease and neuromuscular diseases. Besides that, we have a range of cancer research titles, including kidney cancer. And we are also strong in AI and computer sciences. And this actually is also convenient for us because we can deploy some of the technologies that are being used in our add-on services that we are developing now, on top of our core business of publishing books and journals. So the angle of my presentation is what to do when you are a small company and you have only limited resources to make yourself ready for the future and to keep on thriving. So we have to be smart about our choices. We are only small with about 25 staff members in the Amsterdam office, but we do have a worldwide network. I am the business strategist, and actually this role was created around 3 years ago in consultation with the director to be able to translate the vision into practical steps and also to help shape strategy. So here I list some advantages for if you are a big company or a small company. And I put big and small in quotation marks because I think these terms are subjective. For instance, with regards to the number of staff members we have, we could be considered small. We are only working with 25 people on the payroll, so we have to also outsource a lot and be clever about our collaborations. But with regards to output, we might be considered medium-sized. So if you are big, there are more complexities with the organizational structure. There are many layers, which poses a risk of bureaucracy. There are protocols and structures. While in a smaller company, you are probably more free to craft your own role. You can be more flexible and nimble. And we have, in our case, a loyal and engaged staff because many of us have been there for 10, 15 years. Including myself. I started out as marketing assistant 15 years ago. And even we have some people that have been there almost from the beginning. So they are celebrating 20, 25 years. This gives us a lot of expertise because we have seen changes in the publishing industry firsthand. Our shareholder value is directed at the long term. We are thinking about how can we sustain our business, but not only that, since we have big aspirations, we also want to make a meaningful contribution. So I'm sure that many of you have big aspirations here in the room, and it has come up previously as well. What can we do to challenge the status quo in publishing? And I think there are already a lot of developments going on to help the researchers and to save them time and to make their daily jobs more smooth. So we do follow trends like, for instance, fair data principles, open science, open access. We just signed our first read and publish deal with the Netherlands consortium. But we are not able to step in to all of the trends, so we have to be selective. For us, this also came up earlier, community is of vital importance. We have to listen to our networks. What are they struggling with? What do they need? And how can we help them? So in a big company, you might have targets to please shareholders on an annual basis. And it is not always the case, but it could be that in a big company, innovation is a department instead of it permeating the entire company. So our strategy. So community is important. Our staff members are very important. They are in touch with our authors and editors on a daily basis. And as part of our strategy, it is of vital importance for us to listen to what they have to say and how we can help them. So we work together from the outside in. While we nurture our core business, we are not afraid to try out new things. So we develop in new areas, and we are developing new product types. One of the examples that you can see here is STEM Book. It's a review article database on stem cell research, which originated at Harvard University. And we took over a couple of years ago, and we are now expanding it. We also just launched the open access journal, STEM Journal, and we are expanding the community around stem cell research based on the STEM book that has a very good reputation, and we are also adding different elements to this community hub, as we are calling it. So pitfalls, of course, we have encountered over the last few years, and it is important that we are aware of some of them and that we keep on adapting over time. So we needed to realign our strategy based on changing conditions, and also choosing the right strategy can pose a challenge and is not always obvious. So sometimes we do make mistakes, but then it is important that you can adjust quickly and move on without lingering in the past. We have only small project teams, so we outsource a lot, and finding the right partner can also be a challenge. Our digital infrastructure with lots of legacy databases and websites was not ideal. We don't have deep pockets, so we don't have a lot of money to play around and experiment with. So we do have money that comes from our traditional business, which we are using as injection into our experiments. So it is important also for us to stay calm and collected about new technology. So we may have gotten carried away in the past by things like blockchain. Our approach. Focus, it has come up also previously. It's the most important thing. We cannot do it all. Be honest, internally and externally, because sometimes you have to take a tough decision. Instead of being reactive, be proactive and don't be afraid. Enlist the editors for feedback and keep on getting back to them. Then review your efforts and keep on reviewing, reassessing and decluttering. What we did specifically over the last few years, we reappointed staff. So I already mentioned that I got a new role around 3 years ago, which will help us in the transition into becoming future-proof. Then we reappointed someone to be product manager and a liaison for our technology partners. And we also hired some additional editorial assistants to alleviate publishers' workload so they can focus more on the projects that we are working on. Then we listen to our staff members, our editors. We've also appointed additional members into the extended management team, so we have a better finger on the pulse of developments and requirements coming from our communities. Based on that, we establish our priorities. So this could be something for the overall strategy, but also sometimes it is clear that some workflow enhancements need to be done. Then unsiloing, managers are always talking about it, and indeed it's a good idea. But I also would like to nuance this, because a siloed approach can be very beneficial, because you do need a diversity of angles if you are approaching a certain problem. So do take into account the siloed input you get. And then collaborate, celebrate, and keep on communicating. Some of our accomplishments over the past few years are also related to our decluttering of systems and our development of additional tools based on what we have been doing in the past. So we've assembled toolkits to assist staff and also editors. We are more diligent in making roadmaps for specific projects. So these specify which goals there are. Timelines, deliverables. Since we were a small company, we were not that structured previously, but have become more so over the last couple of years. We reorganized our systems. So for instance, we would have websites that were hosted all over the world. They were developed by different parties. The systems were not scalable at all. We had various databases that were not talking to each other. So we reorganized those. And then about LD Connect. This is our linked data connect platform, which has machine-readable metadata of all of our books and journals. So to go back how this came about, we have to go back to the beginning of the century, when we wanted to start a journal on the semantic web. And we registered the name. We assembled an editorial board. But then something went wrong, and the editorial board defected to Elsevier instead. And they started a journal on web semantics. Since we had registered the name already, they had to change the words around. So fast forward about 10 years, and then we encountered two keen young semantic web researchers who wanted to start a journal, Semantic Web. So finally we did launch the Semantic Web journal, and now it is thriving. And actually there's room for multiple journals in the community, but ours is doing really well. And then the Semantic Web editors-in-chief, they started talking to us about semantically tagging our content. And at first we didn't quite understand what they meant by this, and if it was cool only for the semantic web community perhaps, or were we able to apply this also to other subject categories. Finally we did catch on, and now we see the potential. And we have the LD Connect platform now in beta, so it is still under development. But it is very cool because we have also word embeddings that are not only trained on the abstracts, but on the full text. So we believe in this platform, and we are also developing additional tools like a similar paper finder and a reviewer finder. So these are some of the directions we are going into. And then, as part of our reorganization of the systems, we also had conveyor belt. Yeah, I made a typo. It should be an O. Sorry about that. It was also said previously in the session about open source that reusable building blocks are convenient. If you want to make something that is assembled from various products and you can assemble yourself. So this is what we did with the websites, because previously our websites were very fragmented and not scalable at all. And now with a Belgian company, we made the system so we can have reusable building blocks that can be used for multiple websites. And this is part of our dream goal scenario of having one central data layer with on top of that our modules or building blocks, whatever you want to call it, the profiles and also the templates. So we could generate either a journal website or a book series website or a community-wide portal which is combining various elements. And actually, based on this open source panel previously, I want to add that we also built our own submission system, which is now being used for a couple of journals, because some of them are using an open and transparent peer review system, and the proprietary systems out there did not cater to these needs. So we developed it ourselves, and we are now considering either open sourcing it or maybe doing something else. We are not quite decided, but this could also be potentially very exciting. So what will the future bring? We don't know. We look forward in time only a couple of years, because things are moving so quickly now that we cannot say what will happen in 5 or 10 years from now. But we do know that you have to stay passionate about it, and I'm very pleased to meet here a lot of passionate people with whom perhaps we can collaborate in future, because I also think that collaboration is very important. So what we will do in the future, and what is clear to us, is that we will expand our products and services, develop and implement tools, be part of the networks, because community is so important, connect with other databases, because what I was saying about our LD Connect platform, it has only our own data, and it would be much more powerful to gain insights if we were to connect with other databases. And then we will develop and apply new business models. Wrapping up what it's all about strengthening the community internally and externally, communications and commitment, and keeping our focus, because we cannot do it all. Thank you.
What can you say about how LD Connect is being used, or rather reused, by other parties? It sounds quite a lot like the Springer Nature SciGraph.
Yeah.
What can you say about how it's been reused so far?
Well, it's still in experimental phase, so we can't say so much about it yet. But also we've been using it for our own benefits. So we can also gather more insights about our publications for ourselves. And as I said, it would be more powerful to connect with other databases, because then, for instance, you could choose one subject area and then deploy the tools and see trends and maybe geographical distribution of what is going on. So, yeah, we see the potential, but it's still in development.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed that a lot. You talked about a number of things that you've been doing over the last few years, but you also talked about the fact that you have to be very choosy. You have to be very focused and things. And you alluded to blockchain as something that... But I wonder if you could talk about a couple of things where you've actively, strategically chosen not to do something because you don't have capacity, you don't have... And just about why those were the things that you chose not to engage with.
Yeah, we could say, for instance, open access. You know, there's so much talk about open access, but we as a smaller publisher house, we also have the advantage that we can stay under the radar, of course, as compared to bigger companies. So in this case, we took a stance that, okay, let's see what's happening. Of course, we are getting ourselves ready. For instance, at the moment, now that we have this read and publish deal with the Netherlands, we have to change our administration systems and to set up instructions for Dutch authors. So this is something that we have actively taken a little step back, that let's see how quickly this goes. Yeah, I'm sorry I cannot join the questions later on because I have to leave a little bit early to catch the train. So. But here's my email address.